Hello, I'm Terry Gesualdo with La Dolce Audio, and this topic of this short video is engagement. Engagement. Now, engagement is interesting. To some degree, it's subjective. To a degree, it's all about what a person likes is going to help them be engaged in the music, right? But mostly, what I have found to be the most engaging is probably a natural organic sound with plenty of detail. It doesn't have to be the best sound stage, it doesn't have to be the best imaging, but if you have that natural organic sound with detail, it's alluring, it's engaging. And when you kind of have that, sometimes it's like, man, I got to listen to everything I own in the way of music over again because this sounds different, this sounds new. So that helps, you know, organic natural sound with detail. Another thing that helps is well, just having the tone be balanced, a balanced tone. Essentially, for engagement, you're trying to minimize negative things that are going to make it sound like a recording. And you're going to want to have plenty of positive things that make it sound like real music, or focus on the performance of the musicians, and you just lose a sight or sound sonically, or the ears or the eyes with your ears. You just kind of lose that, and you're focused mostly on the performance and the music, and it comes through and it just grabs you, and now you're engaged. You just want to, you could listen to it all day long. It's just nice to listen to. It's engaging. And so those are some of the things that help engagement. Now, some of the things that kind of harm engagement, you could say, are speakers without great clarity. There's a lot of lo-fi and mid-fi speakers that, even though they have good tone, and even though they sound somewhat detailed, they have a very congested, harmonically congested sound. And it just is not engaging. It doesn't sound like it sounds like a recording. It doesn't sound like a performance. It doesn't sound like life. It doesn't sound like anything real. And that can happen with smaller speakers, because with smaller speakers, usually they're two-way, sometimes three-way, but they tend to kind of get congested easier. And also, they're trying to make a higher sound pressure level with greater excursion from the driver, that then produces more intermodulation distortion. And that can be kind of one of the things that lowers engagement level. Also, amps that create a lot of intermodulation distortion will kind of harm that as well. So there's things you could focus on, things like that: good tone, naturalness, or an organic feel to things, not a good balance in the sound, nothing really standing out glaringly, you could say, a nice balanced tone, and things like that. And then not too much echo in your room. If you have too much echo, that tends to ruin some of the things that a good speaker can do. It can obscure a lot of clarity, you could say. You could have clarity in the system and the speaker, but the room is so reverberant that you're getting a lot more information than there is from the speaker, just from room reflections. And there's kind of a ratio between room reflections and the speaker that is sometimes good, right? You want some reflections there, but you don't want them too loud. If they're too loud, then it obscures the clarity of the speaker. So some room treatment, some light room treatment, even drapes or something can back that off a bit. And then also knowing how room treatments themselves can work with different frequencies. Lower frequencies, if you want to get rid of those to create a little tighter bottom end, then you're going to use thicker treatments, things that are more absorbing, right? Higher frequencies, if you want them to stand out a little bit more without losing a lot of energy, then maybe diffusion will help that more in the room rather than absorption. Absorption's going to mute and reduce treble more than diffusion. So a diffusion is like various panels and stuff to when the sound hits it, it comes back off of it, but in all different directions so that there's no real direct reflected energy coming back to the listener. It's just entering the room. So it creates an environment, but it doesn't necessarily ruin the clarity of the speaker. So that's engagement and what helps engagement, and possibly how you can achieve better engagement with your system by just trying a few simple things with room treatment. Sometimes vacuum tube amplifiers are more engaging than solid state, and sometimes R2R DACs are more engaging than the DSD DACs. So you could try those. Sometimes the DSD DACs are more engaging than the R2Rs. It just all depends on the rest of your system and the balance you have. But a balanced tone, if you can try to work with that, and you can do that, there's so many different means of doing that. One is room treatment, then that's going to help you the most.